So we have this app header with this login and sign up button, but we don't actually have any login and sign up functionality built into our app. In this lesson, we will add that. I'm going to click on this reusable header and click on edit element. So we just go to our reusable element and I want to add in a pop-up. This is going to be our pop-up for sign up /login. And when we click these buttons, we want to open that pop-up. Now we are going to be using the same pop-up for both logging in and signing up. So this is going to be a column alignment. And what we're going to do is we are going to have two groups. One is going to be group login. I'm going to make this column, stretch it all the way across, and then say fit height to content. And the other one is going to be group sign up. And each of these are going to have their own things inside it for either logging in or signing up. Let's start with the sign up one. I'm going to add in a little header. You can put it in the center, say fit width to content and fit height to content, and make it a heading 5. This can say sign up. I'm going to go to our pop-up and add some padding all around. And let's return back to this. I am going to have some text here which will say email. Same deal, fit width to content, fit height to content, and then an input. And since we have both logging up and signing up on the same pop-up, this is not just going to be input email, it's going to be input sign up email. I want this to be a fixed height of 48, and then we can let it stretch the whole way. I just made this our heading 3 and changed the style up a bit. I'm going to take this input and the email here and group these elements in a column. That way we can add in 8 pixels of gap spacing between the two, while this group sign up can have 16 pixels of gap spacing between elements. We have one input for an email and we need another for a password. So I'm just going to copy paste that. This can say password, and this is input sign up password. When they sign up, they need to give an email, a password, and then click submit. So I'm going to add in a little button. This will be create account. I'm going to let it stretch all the way across and give it a fixed height of 48. While we want to give them the option to create account, we also need some sort of cancel button. So I'm going to make this an outline button. This will have no min width, but a max width of 200. I'm going to say a fixed height of 48. Now I want to group both of these in a row container. So now they just look like that. If I go to this row container that I group them in, I'm going to do that by I can add in 16 pixels of column gap between the two. Now that that we actually have some content here, we can go on our pop-up and remove the min height. Let's configure our group login as well. I'm actually going to delete the one that we set up and copy paste that because overall it is quite similar. I could be using the same pop-up and just be hiding and renaming these buttons, but we already did that with the create and edit pop-up, and I want to show you a different way to do things. This is going to be log in. Since we will only see one of these at a time, one of them is going to be hidden. So on both of these, I want to click collapse when hidden. This is the operation that makes it just look like it wasn't even there, essentially disappear. Let's actually configure these buttons to show the correct groups. The first thing we want to do is show our pop-up. This will essentially show both the groups associated with the pop-up, but then we want to conditionally hide our group sign up and show our group login. For button sign up, it is the same thing but reversed, so I'm just copy pasting that, and we want to hide group login but show group sign up. We can test this out. I'm going to click sign up. That's what we see. We can click login. That's what we see. We could do it the other way around as well. Login and then sign up, and it's all working exactly how we want. Let's add in the functionality to actually be able to create an account. Since this is such a common use case, Bubble already has a built-in action to do this. Under account, we click sign the user up. We just need to give it an email, so I'm going to give it the value of our input sign up emails field and then a password as well. And I don't want to require a password confirmation. If I did, I would just need two different inputs, and I would put in the second input's value, and I don't want to send an email or remember the email. And this will sign the user up. I am going to do the same thing for logging the user in. They also have a pre-built action to do that. I'm going to give it the input login emails value, and then give it the input login passwords value, and all of this is good. Now we want to be able to know whether the user is logged in or not. In our group buttons on the header, we currently have a login and a sign up button. But if the user is already logged in, we don't want it to show this. We want to show a log out button. So I'm going to add that in here. Let's place it in the center, say fit width to content, and a fixed height of 48. Then this can say log out. Let's add a conditional. I only want this to be visible when the current user is logged in. Bubble comes pre-built with this condition. Bubble checks if it's logged in or not, and all we need to do is say that this element is visible when the user is logged in. Since we want this to be visible, we also want these to be hidden. So I'm going to paste that condition and just uncheck the element is visible. On this button logout, we just need to say collapse when hidden, and we see it disappear, and we already have that checked for these two buttons. One thing we didn't do is after logging the user in, we also want to hide our pop-up. and we need the same action when we sign the user up. Cool, let's try this out. Currently we see login and sign up, no logout. I'm going to create an account, give it a password, and then click create account. And we see this turn to log out, which means that the current user is logged in. Now that we signed the user up, under app data, we can see that there's this data type users, and it's populated with the email, created date, and modified date. This is a data type that comes pre-built with bubbles, so we can see it right over here. Now let's set up functionality to be able to log out so we can test how our logging in works. I'm going to go to our button and add a workflow. Again, Bubble comes pre-built with this. All we need to do is log the user out. It knows exactly which user we are talking about. And super simple. So I'm currently logged in. I can click log out and we see our login and sign up buttons return. I'm going to just show you our login flow. Let's put in the account that we just made. And we are now logged in. So let's look at our app a little. Here we have the option to edit or delete a listing. But if you really think about it, there are people who want to sell houses and people who want to buy houses. And we don't want to give buyers the ability to edit a listing. What we're going to do is add user roles. Over here in our pop-up in-group sign-up, in addition to asking for their email and password, we also want to ask for what role they are. Are they a buyer or a seller? I just copy pasted this password field. We can say choose your role. This is not an input because there are only two options. Speaking of options, that sounds a little familiar, almost like we need to use an option set. So we need to have a role option set with buyer and seller. Then on our user data type, we want to add a field called role. This is going to be of type role, and this way we can choose what the user is. We can allow the user to choose what role they want to play. Options, and we want to delay the confirmation of this until this create account is clicked, so we need to use custom states as well. You could use anything. You could use two groups symbolizing seller and buyer. You could use text. You could use buttons, but I am actually going to use a group. This is going to be a row. I want it to stretch all the way across and give it a min height of 20 and just fit height to content. I'm going to make it last so it goes under this choose your role. And that's all good. Within this, I'm going to add two more groups. I am going to make this an aligned parent. I'm going to let it stretch all the way across and give it a fixed height of 48. Let's make it a flat yellow and call it group buyer. Now I also want to give it a type of content so it can store what role it's referring to, and then we can just reference this group. So I'm just going to make its data source buyer. Since there are only two options, Bubble gives it to us like that, and I just selected this. Just some styling thing, I want to click define each border independently, and I want the bottom left to have 8 pixels of roundness, as well as the top left. This is group buyer. We also need one for group seller. This one, the data source is going to be seller instead, and we are going to have 0 pixels of rounding on the left side and 8 pixels on the right. And all of the other formatting remains consistent. Both of these are aligned to a parent, so I'm going to grab a text and put it in the center. This is going to say parent group's roles display, which is its name. I'm going to give it no min width, say fit width to content, and say fit height to content. I'm going to copy paste that text into this one, and this is just referencing the parent group's display, so I don't need to change anything there. Now let's add in our custom state. This is group role. I'm going to add a custom state called role. This is going to be of type role, and it's just going to store that. By default, it's going to be buyer. Just like on the status filtering, we conditionally change the appearance of the icon. With this, we're going to change the color. So when group roles role is this group's role, then this background color is going to be our dark yellow instead. I'm going to copy paste that condition over here. The same is going to be true for this. Let's preview this. I'm currently logged in, so I'm just going to click log out, and then we can click sign up. And this is what we see. By default, it is buyer. I'm going to move this whole group to the top because I think that'll just look a lot better. And yes, now let's add a functionality to be able to click these buttons, these groups to toggle between the two rows. I'm going to add a workflow. When this is clicked, we are going to set the state of group roles role equal to this group's role. Going to copy paste that, and the same for when group seller is clicked. Let's click sign up, and we can toggle between the two. Now, when we create an account, in addition to signing the user up, we want to change another field on the user, and that will be role. So we want to set the role equal to our group roles role. So whatever is stored there. I'm going to create an account. We can call this test2@gmail.com. I want this person to be a seller, and I'm just going to use the same password for convenience. And let's create an account. Now let's add things based on what role you are. I only want sellers to be able to edit and delete, while buyers can only view. Back to here, we have this group icons. I am going to say it is actually not visible on page load, and it collapses when hidden. It is going to be visible when the current user's role, I can grab that field, is seller. So when they are a seller, then they can edit a listing. So I'm currently logged in as a seller, so I can edit a listing if I log in with our other account, test@gmail.com. This person is not a seller, and we don't see those options. I want the same for create listing and this entire panel that holds it. So on here, I'm going to say it is not visible on page load and it collapses when hidden, and it's only visible when the current user's role is seller. So I'm currently a buyer. We see that disappear, the space is gone, and then there's no option to edit. Taking it one step further, I want these icons to only be visible when the person is a seller and this listing's creator is the current user. Let's check out what this means. I'm going to sign up as a seller now. Here, I haven't created any of these listings, so I don't see that option to edit and delete. But if I create one right now, so here I created this listing and we can see the option to edit and delete, and that's all working how it should. So when I'm logged in, at this size, we see our log out button, but at a smaller size, we see both this option and our log out button. But when we're logged in, we want this to hide instead of a button. We'd rather have an icon. So let's just set that up really quick. And look at this group buttons in the elements tree. So this is the icon that shows up. And let's just add a workflow there to open the sign up page. So show, pop up, sign up, login, hide, group login, and show group sign up. We are going to have another icon, but instead of this account, this will be a sign out icon, which is this one. So both of these icons are not visible on page load and are only visible when the current page width is less than 992. In addition to that, let's add a condition. The current page width is less than 992 and current user is logged in. And for this one, it's going to be less than 992 and current user is logged out. Now we can preview this and we see our logout icon. We just need to add a condition so that when the current page width is less than 992, our button logged out is not open, and current page width is greater than equal to 992. One last thing on this icon, let's just say log the user out. So at this size, we now have this icon. I can click it, I am logged out, and it returns to this one. But as a buyer, when I look at these houses, I want some more information, maybe a description, maybe to be able to see who the seller is. That's what we're going to cover in the next video.